So episode 15 just aired, and it was actually pretty surprising on how far it pushed the story toward a more final conclusion for the war. Of course, before I get into this video, there's going to be spoilers. So this episode actually focused more on Simon's revolution on Negan and less on Oceanside, and basically on how it was foiled by Dwight in the end. Like, Simon gets, I think, what, 3 saviors on his side? I thought there would be more based on the teaser, but it's only 3 people actually deciding to side with Simon over Negan. But nonetheless, Negan just outright kills them. No saving or sparing anyone that decides to betray Negan, I guess. Well, except for Dwight, who served the purpose by giving the fake plans to Gregory, which then gave it to Rick and the Hilltop. Negan does give Simon a chance when everything goes down. Simon doesn't die by a bat in this episode. You'd think he would, but dying from a bat serves a very specific purpose. Negan doesn't just like doing it specifically, it's to scare communities, make them fear that happening to them in order to make them serve Negan. Simon is pretty damn confident in the beginning of that fight, pretty strange when you consider the fight doesn't last too long, and he doesn't really get off at many really good hits except for the very beginning when he kind of like backstabs him again. Simon and Negan basically have a classic brawl with tons of people watching, well, saviors watching. I mean, it's pretty obvious how this fight's going to go right when it starts. Negan eventually does get to a point of just choking Simon out and giving some pep talk to the other saviors afterwards. And that's basically the main stuff that happens in the sanctuary. But oddly enough, there's barely any Oceanside in this episode. You'd think there would be a lot based on the teasers and the synopsis. I mean, by the end of the episode, the most we got was Aaron telling the Oceanside people to fight, which he's been doing a lot, and they didn't even verbally agree to do it. It's also nearly the end of the season. There's not too much war left to join or to fight, but they do have to join, or else there'd be absolutely no point in spending this much time with them in this season. I really wonder how Oceanside will actually be introduced to the all-out war fight now that it's almost over. The most likely situation, I think, would be a surprise attack on the Saviors. Oceanside is something I don't think they even know about, or a surprise attack or something similar like that would turn things in Rick's direction if it was heading south. Daryl and Rosita do grab Eugene after very swiftly taking out 2 saviors that were guarding him. That scene was amazing, and it really demonstrated the usefulness of having bows and arrows for stealth, as no one was alerted at all. They get kind of far, and Eugene actually tries to join the Hilltop again by, well, sort of. He's trying to say he's sorry and that he will try to make amends. But Daryl and Rosita just explode at him, telling him to basically go fuck himself. And that leads to the next scene that we have them in, where Eugene actually uses his trigger finger to vomit all over Rosita in an attempt to distract her, I guess. That came as a complete surprise. That it was the last thing I was expecting him to do when they were showing scenes of his hand. I thought he was going to whistle to call other saviors to his aid, but no. But he then escapes, hiding under some, I think, burnt corpses, recently burnt corpses at the sanctuary, and eventually he does return. I mean, with all the crap that Rosita said to him, I don't blame him for going back to the sanctuary. He had a much better life there than he would be living in a cell or a very dark location in the Hilltop. But is Eugene a savior now? I think he can still come back, mostly because it's the end of the season and that's still a question in the air. If the showrunners wanted an arc where Eugene went bad, it would have been way more conclusive by this point. There would be no question. So I do think he's going to play a role in the finale, definitely Gabriel as well. So the very last shot of this episode, we have Simon as a walker, and that was amazing. I am so glad Negan kept his head undamaged after choking him out. It felt almost as shocking as seeing a helicopter that keeps visiting the communities. I just never expected to see Simon as a walker, as a zombie. And the last major point in this episode is that Negan finally gets to hear Carl's letter. It's also confirmation that the letter Rick was holding way earlier on in the season when he was talking to Negan wasn't this one. Negan has basically decided at this point to follow Simon's philosophy, now that Simon has effed everything up. Negan has to kill all of them. The Hilltop Kingdom, Rick's group, Alexandria, I guess. And that's how Negan thinks starting over is going to be. There's no other path for peace for him. But anyways, next episode is the finale, so obviously I'm both excited and disappointed. We're gonna have to wait another year for The Walking Dead to come back. I'm hoping Fear the Walking Dead actually holds its ground now that Morgan's being introduced and the showrunners have been basically replaced, but I guess time will tell. As usual though, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe and like, and I'll see you in my teaser breakdowns and eventually my review of the finale. Alright, see you in the next one.